I think we'll get started. So, hey, everyone, welcome to Faculty Office Hours. This is a time for you to join us and get to know some of our faculty here. So, one of the reasons we do this, we know that students travel further to go to Reed than any other college, literally further than any other college on average. That means that, some of our students are going to be in New York, Minnesota, Illinois, Texas, all over the world. And while some of you will come to campus, like yesterday, we had an admitted student day and 200 families joined us on campus and met with faculty, met with parents, sat in on classes, got a lot of information about Reed. We know also there's a really helpful space like this for you to learn about the college. And so we have some of our faculty that are representing different disciplines. And they're just going to talk to you about what it means to be here at Reed, a little bit about their departments, and it's going to be a good opportunity for you to answer any questions that you have. And the way that you can do that is there's a Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. And so what that does is allow you to ask a question, and I'm going to be managing those questions. And what I'll do is take some of those and throw those at the faculty. I might ask them to write a response and present it to everyone. If it's something that, I can answer, I might chat that out and respond to the whole group so everyone can see the response. But make sure you use that Q&A section to ask questions. If you need to get in touch with me, my colleague Ty is here. Go ahead and chat out. Those will get to us, not the other folks who are here, for us to address anything that you're curious about. But rather than go on, I'm going to have all of our guests introduce themselves. And I should say something funny like alphabetical order, but why don't we go Kevin first and then Kelly and then Kristin. Let us know who you are, what your role here at Reed. And as you talk about your department, talk about your emphasis within the department.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, or good to see your names at least. So yeah, I'm Kevin Holmes. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a faculty member in the psychology department here at Reed. And within psychology, it's a really broad discipline. But my area is cognitive psychology. And so I use experiments to try and understand how the mind works. And my research focus is on language and how it relates to different kinds of cognitive processes like categorization, reasoning, decision making. And so I try to design experiments to get at what's going on, between our ears and to see how a lifetime of experience speaking a certain language may shape the way we think, how in the moment, particular words and phrases that we hear may have an impact on the decisions we make.
Mhm. Excellent. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kelly, they, them pronouns, and I am an associate professor of chemistry in the chemistry department here at Reed. I teach the first semester of introductory chemistry, which we enjoy a lot of majors and non-majors, folks that just want to explore what chemistry is about. It's one of the best parts of my job. And then I also am part of the biochemistry, molecular biology interdisciplinary major. So I teach advanced level courses in that. I teach a metabolic biochemistry course, really the organic chemistry of life. And then also a hands-on kind of real life laboratory experience called biochemical methods, where we really train students in that laboratory setting to get away from the cookie cutter, which is good at the beginning, but just like anything at Reed, we really accelerate that growth and get you really taking ownership of what it is to do research. I'm one of the senior members of the department, and one of our biggest goals that I feel really proud of us for is that we work very hard to have a warm climate of welcoming and belonging in our department. Chemistry is for everyone, whether or not you decide to major, and we just want to make sure everyone has a good time and learns enough to become a engaged and informed citizen.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristin Scheible. I'm chair of the religion department. I'm professor of religion and humanities here. I just want to, even before talking about my department, echo what Kelly just said. and I know psychology is the same way. All of our departments have individual cultures, but we have students from across the college taking our classes who are de facto members of our department while they're taking our courses. So I just really love that piece of teaching at Reed. I'm a South Asianist by training. I'm a Sanskritist and do Pali literature. I write books about the Buddha. And my coursework here tends to be in Buddhist studies and in Hinduism. Right now, I'm teaching a class on South Asian nationalism. I see we have someone from Bangladesh here. And I also teach in our kind of budding, I use that generously here, our budding environmental humanities program. It's a group of scholars who are all interested in environmental humanities. So I teach in that as well.
I have to mention that Kelly is getting props already. Someone's a big fan of your research. I've heard wonderful things about you from Madeline Terrara. Tell me, what's that about, Kelly?
Well, actually, so Madeline was a student in my courses, those advanced courses last year. And this year, Madeline is actually helping me as a teaching assistant, an undergraduate teaching assistant in my laboratory course. And
Wow.
so not only do I see them doing research, across the hall in various ways, but also they enjoyed the course so much that they wanted to help students this year from right on the ground. They did it last year, and so that's really cool that Madeline said that. It's an honor. Thank you.
Your reputation precedes you.
Mm.
So I've got to ask y'all this. This is a little bit off the cuff, but I talk to high school students and we talk about research, being involved, working closely with faculty. I just never did that in high school. And so we say it and it's almost impossible to imagine how that actually happens. I mean, do people just sort of like walk down the hall and peer into your office and like, hey, that research thing, do I do it now? Like how does that actually come about?
I can start. I would say that research in psychology is at Reed is just infused throughout our curriculum. So students just from our intro course, Psych 101, are involved in research experiences. So they attend a lecture component, but they also are in smaller concept labs and applied labs where they're learning research methods from the very first week of their time at Reed. And then after that intro course, they take methods courses in specific areas of psychology, and those are still intro level lab courses. And then they kind of advance to our core courses where almost all of them have a lab component. And so you're really getting trained in the tools of the discipline. You're not just reading about research that other people have done, you're also getting your hands dirty and doing that research yourself. And that all culminates then in the senior thesis, where you get to work individually with a faculty member who's an expert in a particular area of research. And often, we have really nice matches between faculty and students. So students, of course, bring their own interests, and their projects are often initiated by them, but they also benefit from the faculty members' expertise. And so you kind of have a melding of the minds, and you come together, and like most scientific research, it's collaborative, but it's also the students' project, and something that they really can take pride in. And so, yeah, I mean, like other departments at Reed, psychology has a really strong track record for placing students in PhD programs. And so I think that really stems from the research training that we're providing throughout the curriculum.
I think also this idea of students not even imagining that research is right for them. And maybe Kristen, you can talk about this because you're in the humanities, and sometimes when we hear research, we only think about the sciences. Tell me what that looks like for someone who doesn't do science.
Sure. And actually, I mean, I would just echo everything Kevin said with a little twist in the humanities. In my own department, I don't know about you all out there, but a lot of high schools, especially non-religious high schools, don't really talk about religion ever.
Mhm.
So a lot of people don't know what they're interested in when they first come to read. They take the general, the Hum 110 class. They don't know that religion is a discipline unto itself, that it's an interdisciplinary discipline. We have anthropologists of religion, philosophers of religion. If you don't know what you're interested in, we might be a good place for you to kind of figure it out. But if you didn't have it as a discipline in high school, you might think you're interested in anthropology or sociology, and then it's only, or philosophy. We have a lot of students come and they realize, oh, I want to read about Vasubandhu. I want to read about Buddhist philosophy. Well, the religion department is where you do it. But in terms of research, we do the methods and theories a little later. So it's not a 100 level course. Our 100 level courses are very content based, sort of historical trajectory in religious traditions. Then we kind of funnel through a research and theories method seminar. And that's useful even if you're not a religion major. It's about critical thinking skills. It's about representing yourself in written form. And then we broaden and allow you to explore your own individual interests in that senior thesis year. So it's very similar. We do a lot of summer research. We have Ruby Langford grants for humanities students who want to do close work with a faculty mentor over the summer that fund research for students that should be publishable, which is quite unique amongst small liberal arts colleges.
I'm so curious if any of you have ever had a student who you thought they were so disinterested in your class and they show up and say, I want to major, I want to do research, or it just completely surprised you and what that mindset was. Maybe you have an example of that?
Actually, I can keep going with this one. One of Kelly's students, who was a chemistry major, took a religion class. This is no names. Okay, no names. Um, Took religion class with me, and then Cumbies ended up at Harvard Divinity School, and then getting right his PhD
Wow.
in religion. So we share, or we have students who kind of jump around too, and the disciplines are transferable, like modes of thinking are transferable, and that's kind of exciting at a place like Reed that you can make those connections and departures.
Kelly, I have a question for you. Can you describe a few examples of chemistry research projects that students can get involved in, either yours or other faculty members?
Oh, yeah. So, on the vein of what folks were talking about with how research or, inquiry might work in their departments and fields, kind of in the same spirit of wanting to make sure that people can just immerse themselves at any stage in research or asking a research question. I and many of my colleagues take students over the summer or for like short-term research assistant projects as early as their first year or their rising sophomore year. Because for me, as a first gen person, I didn't even know what research was like. The lab sort of represented this sort of cast of people that maybe I didn't know I would belong in. Do I know what I'm doing? And for me, being in the lab and learning just even how it operates, kind of like a kitchen or something, was really formative. And feeling like, yeah, I kind of do know what I'm doing. And so then when I did go to grad school, I felt like I kind of knew where I was going. And so likewise, it's so important to start folks early to just even get in there and like help wash some dishes or do a simple assay and just get comfortable with that process and get paid to do it. And so I think that's really important too. Um, there are so many options in the chemistry department as far as projects. I will say that many of us have grant funding for specific visions and projects that we, really are pursuing over several years. And so you really are contributing to publications, things like that, if that's kind of your flavor. But then there's also a student might come in with their own idea for something, and we have faculty who just love that. So one of our faculty members, Danielle Cass, is a wonderful bioanalytical chemist. And so, for example, we have students working on looking at how the liver, using like these little liver microsomes that you can actually purchase, and exposing them to kratom, because it's such a big thing in the world. And it's not so much that people are, it's just they want to know more about this thing they're seeing in the media and how exactly is it working. And so we have students investigating how it's being uptaken. We have folks going out into the Crystal Springs and taking samples to look for metal waste from various, industries or companies. We have all kinds of stuff going on. People doing drug development. It's really cool. It's a balance between, we can't do everything, but we're super open to, if you tell us you want to do a certain thing, we'll find a way to at least get you the skills and exposure to decide if that's a direction you want to go with in the future.
This is a good time for me to know. Whoops, I hit my camera button, not the mute button. Great.
Million, where are you?
I kept hitting it, and then I'd hit it again, and then I'd hit it twice. Okay. The Zoom, I still haven't figured it out yet. This is really a good time to mention the updated Carnegie classifications. And so folks don't talk about this a lot, but if the schools are categorized in different ways, you have baccalaureate institutions, you have institutions that are doctoral institutions. And it used to be the case where only the big schools could actually get recognized for their research. And that's changed. So any school that dedicates a certain amount of money for research, and that happens to be $2.5 million, can now receive a designation. And this designation is known as Research Activity Designation. And what is really cool, when we took a look at all the schools of the National Liberal Arts schools, there's 29. Reed was fourth in the nation for their commitment to funds for research. Amherst, Wellesley, Hope, then Reed College, and behind Reed, places like Grinnell, Claremont, Williams, Morehouse, and Barnard. But almost $6 million on average in the last 3 years for research, which is incredible, particularly when you think about the size of our campus. And so I say that to our families because I don't want you to think you have to do a different type of experience to do research. And in fact, I think it means you cover more ground because it's not you and 15 other students, it's you and maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 other students, which I think is really unique. Kevin, I have a question for you. Someone wants to know, they just want a few examples, and you can just, this is really quick, of classroom time versus real world practice, whether that's experiments or surveys. They're just wondering, they're curious about the mix of one versus the other.
Sure. Yeah. Let me give you an example of one of my courses. So I teach a core course for the psychology major called Cognitive Processes, and it's about how people acquire, store, and use knowledge that they possess. And so this course has kind of a conference component. So at Reed we use this term conference to refer to small classes where there's a lot of discussion, a lot of interaction among students and between students and the professor. So my course has that component. So we meet twice a week for 80 minutes for our conference sessions. But then there's also a lab component. So students also come, and it's a smaller section, about 12 students perhaps, who are then working in groups on a research project together. And this is often sort of an outgrowth of the content in the conference piece. And so it's kind of well synchronized. And in the lab component, students are, I think as the question is alluding to, they're conducting experiments kind of from start to finish. And so they have a research question. They have to figure out how to operationalize their variables, right? So in psychology, we're dealing with often very big questions. It's hard to imagine how to even make them tractable. How do you measure something like categorization or things like that? And so we figure out ways to do that. And the students work together to make that happen. And then they implement the experiment maybe in using a survey software or software that is able to collect information about reaction time. So that's a tool that we use in psychology. And so students will then administer their experiment to participants, often their peers in other classes, and they collect the data, and then we go through and we analyze the data. We run statistical analyses to figure out what's the answer to our research question, and then they all work together to write up a report in the style of our discipline. So psychology uses APA style. It's the American Psychological Association, and it's an empirical research report. It's like what you might read, in a scientific journal, and they're trying to emulate that style of writing, and they get feedback from me on each of the sections that they're writing. And so yeah, it's really a research project from start to finish, a mini project, not quite at the scale of a thesis, but it gives them a taste of what carrying out a project is like, and they get kind of scaffolded along that process through the semester.
Answer one question quickly because I think this was addressed, and I just want to make sure that we caught that. If someone wants to combine STEM with community research initiatives, could they do that? And what I heard you all say was, if a student had an idea, you would work really hard to incorporate that. This next question, this combines a couple, but I get the sense people are trying to determine how the learning environment between STEM courses and humanity courses in the humanities differ, and let's just say in other disciplines, with sort of a nod to, uh, I don't want to say rigor, but I think there's a sense that, is there a variation? Do you have to sacrifice one for the other? Which I think you all will sort of enjoy answering. And there's one that's quickly associated after that, but I'll let you answer that first.
Well, I'm going to start because I think there is this misconception that somehow there are two different camps, or that they're somehow easier, harder, whatever. One of the reasons that I think, and I can speak, I think freely for my colleagues, is one of the reasons we were drawn to read. I mean, most of us had the option of going in, being at the big universities and maybe spent time at those places, and could have gone the major, research route with very little undergraduate interaction, and really just stayed in your silo of, I am in science, I am this, I am that. That is not what drew us to Reed. It is a liberal arts institution, and I can count folks like Kristin as my friend, as well as someone who I can discuss pedagogy with in a way that really not only brings it together and finds common ground, but also just brings new ideas in. And we really, I believe, bring that into the classroom. When I talk about chemistry, I'm not talking about an us versus that. I'm saying bring in something that came from your other courses. We'll discuss it. I think it's just so wonderful to have that. And at an institution this size, it really is. I think there's kind of a false sense of community values in some places. And I don't mean college, but just like, oh, we're a community, we're a family, but truly there is a functioning, vibrant organism community here. And it's very special. I don't, like I said, having Gen Chem and seeing the number of students who are in theater, who are in religion, who are doing this, who feel comfortable and safe in this scientific environment, and vice versa, being a scientist in these other environments and feeling like they can engage as well as anyone else, and being surprised at how tough some of their courses in the humanities or in any of these courses versus science. It's fun to watch, and it's very fun for the students, and it opens their minds.
Can I follow that?
Absolutely.
Because we're friends. We share students. I mean, there is no bifurcating STEM and Hume it just can't really do that at a place like Reed, because we also have distribution requirements. So you will be required to dip your toe in a variety of different disciplines. And so, I mean, I'm thinking about the last couple of years, I've had this cohort of physics majors who keep taking my classes. And it's a strange and beautiful universe. And people have looked up and wondered questions for millennia. And my discipline looks at those questions in a different way than their physics professors look at those questions. But boy, we have amazing conversations because of it. I walked in once and they were diagramming something using math. And, in that moment, I'm thinking we're dealing with Buddhist cosmology. What are these numbers and squiggles? Can you translate that? And it just opens the door for all of this. I saw a crisscross question. The door is always open. That's the beauty of a small read conference is so we go there. Someone opens the door and we go there. And very few of our classes are lecture only. Conferences are really for the play, for this intellectual play to take hold. And I've seen it happen many times. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Well answered. One of the things our students are curious about is actually, you know, uh, Kelly, can you briefly tell people what pedagogy is?
Ooh, um, it is approaching teaching, education. I'm just going with what my gut is.
Mhm.
Approaching how you actually want someone to receive or intake or absorb and bring out information. So there's sort of there's a taxonomy to this, or meaning like sort of levels to how well you've learned something, how well something is presented. Like, for example, you think about memorization. It's valuable for some things. Sometimes you need the toolbox of words or definitions in order to be able to build something. But I think that for us, pedagogy is something that we can all nerd out about. And like, how do we approach our courses? Oh, I do it this way. Oh, I really think they need to do it this way. One thing about Reed that really struck me is when I started here, I was like, well, how would you like me to teach introductory chemistry? And they're like, well, how would you like to teach introductory chemistry? You have the autonomy to decide what you would like to do, and that can come from the gut. It can come from journal articles. It can come from a combination. It can come from talking with the community. Sometimes we'll get together and just compare syllabi, and we're talking poetry professors, psychology professors, really, and we're talking about our syllabi and how we can convey information. So we, again, being at a place like this where we are focused on creating the next generation. So for me, I think about I'm teaching people how to science rather than, necessarily working with scientists. That is how I see pedagogy. Like I think about how students are really going to engage, really want to do it, and actually remember what they learned.
That's perfect, Kelly. The way in which we approach education, I think, was important for the previous question because rigor isn't mutually exclusive depending on the field. That the way that students at Reed will get information, we have conversations about that. It's one of the ways that we de-emphasize grades and focus on the learning, which I'll ask you ask you about later. Believe it or not, we're more than halfway through and I am going to do a speed round. Uh, Folks have asked a lot of questions, and you all will have 30 seconds to answer. One person will have 30 seconds to answer it. Are you ready for this? This is like game show version, and I have a timer down here. Whoever gets the most points, I will bring you over a pair of Reed socks. So I don't know if that's, I don't know, appealing or not. But you ready? All right, let's start at the beginning. Is it easy to get a publication under your belt in 4 years at Reed?
It depends.
Tell me more.
No
Okay.
socks for you, Kelly. No socks.
No socks.
I still got 25 seconds.
Okay, it depends. Things are usually stepwise. So one student will hand off something to another student. And then if you stay and you continue and work in the same lab or have a collaboration between different professors, it actually can often lead to a publication. However, we as professors have a slower publication record because we're so engaged in teaching. So generally, you can expect to have contributed to a publication. If that is a goal, you tell us that. And maybe in the year or two after you graduate, even suddenly there will be this publication and you're going to be on it. But we're going to teach you how to do real research so that you'll be ready for where you go to get a publication. We treat it real time.
That's excellent. All right, another question, and this is for everyone. What does the balance between teacher-led versus student-led learning in classes? Or what is the balance between teacher-led versus student-led learning in classes?
Kevin, you want it?
I think it's hard to say because it's all integrated. This actually relates to the previous question about pedagogy. And because I was going to say, from my perspective as a communication researcher, teaching is about anticipating or trying to figure out what is the student's mental model of the content that I'm teaching. And so I think good teachers are trying to understand what is the student thinking about the content at this moment, and how can I lead them toward deeper understanding? So I think that if you are not really thinking about what the other the other person has in their mind, then you're not really meeting them where they are. So I think that in the classroom, if we are both doing that, if I'm doing that as the instructor and the students are also kind of receiving what I'm saying and maybe trying to think about things also from my perspective, then we can have a rich exchange.
Right. Anyone else more to say about that? All right. So everyone,
I mean, we can talk. We're read perfectly. We know how to talk. I would echo something of Kevin's, but it also depends on the type of conference, how large it is, what the relationship of, student ownership of the conference versus professors' ownership of the conference. We call it conference here, which took me a while to get used to. We didn't do that at Harvard, where I'd gone and stuff like that. We didn't call it conference. I ended up loving this term because conference to me means everyone comes with a bag. Like everyone comes prepared with something that they're going to unload and present in some way, shape, or form. It's non-threatening. It's low stakes because we all are in a community together and we want to hear each other out. But you come bearing some of the burden of the discourse. And so that's what I like about conference versus other modes. And I'd say even with large lecture courses, there's an element of participation, which is unusual compared to other institutions.
gosh,
This ties in quickly to the intro chem, because I think that was a question. For us, what we do, some of us flip the classroom entirely in a larger lecture, but even for us, a large lecture is about 45 people. So that's really not that wild. I mean, we're talking about other places, 300 to 1,000 people in an intro chem course. So I generally know all my students' names and a little bit about who they are in the first 2 weeks. We also have our own conference. It doesn't quite look the same as it would for a humanities-based course, but it is a place where we have smaller groups, like 3 different sections, where we really get to know each other. It's a small environment where we can work through problems, ask questions, just have fun. Again, like just really dig into the learning and have a good time. And it's great. So it's a good balance. And then we have laboratory, of course, which is a lot of fun.
wow.
I was just going to say that for conferences, we come to confer with each other. I think that's why the term is apt.
I love that, Kristin, your definition of conference. We all come with our own bags. That's such a great visual. What? Let's see. I'm going to ask a different one. Let's see. This one is sort of interesting, and it's open, which is why I'm just going to throw it out there and not put a lot of context on it. How do you all take advantage of having small classes at Reed? It's kind of an interesting. We talk about it, but no one's ever said why is that cool? Why is that a big deal?
And
So how do you all take advantage of that?
I think I've probably had the smallest conferences of the group of us because, again, it's a small department. The smallest conference I've had here is 6. I've also done independent studies, to learn language like Sanskrit. But my small conference, we could all fit in my 7-seater car, which meant we actually explored. So this was, Buddhist studies on the road. And I that was a really good experience. Some small conferences are quite intimate. We get to know each other really well. So we're able to talk about really hard things, at least in the study of religion. We're talking about a lot of identity and a lot of trauma over vast swath of history. So sometimes having a very small, tight conference it's a real blessing to be able to get to know people.
I think for me, it's because in my upper division courses, I'll have maybe 10 students up to 15, and their junior, senior level. So honestly, I think there's a lot where, unlike in larger courses where you have to really hold the line about, say, an assignment or, a like a certain outcome for a learning experience or something. Instead, I can literally ask my students with goodwill and intent, how would you like this to look? How do you think that you would best learn this material? Would you like more of a quiz format, or do you think that writing this out would be helpful? It's not something that generally you can kind of risk doing in a much larger, because you're going to get like every different answer under the sun. But students will really sit down and discuss these things seriously. Like, would we like this to be due on a week? Like, I know it sounds silly, but that's something you would not generally have in most places. And like, we all talk about it and we all come up with the decision. And like, okay, cool. We've decided this is how we want to learn this material. I love that. I mean, it's nice to be able to have a give and take. And if students aren't responding to something, they feel safe being able to say, yeah, it feels a little passive. Can we do something a little more hands-on with this? Great. I'd love to.
I, if I can just add, I love conferences because they are a semester-long conversation, and you pick up the thread from last time, but also from 4 weeks ago. And I structure a lot of my classes around kind of major debates in the field. And so it becomes a conversation with each other, but also with scholars in the field. And so you're interacting with the texts and you're forming an opinion. Everyone has an opinion about the material, and you quickly come to realize where each member of the conference is coming from, and you can almost anticipate. Oh, when we get to, I love it because I can say next week's reading. Oh, I know that student is going to have this reaction because I kind of know where they're coming from, and I'm excited to see how each of the students is going to react to the material, and I yeah, I really enjoy that.
So you all know this. I talk about small classes probably more than anyone. And you all just shared information that I had not imagined. And it makes it so real and so special. The close connection, how much you cater to the learning environment, how much your students are part of the conversation. And I just have to imagine, students call you by your first name. Does that help facilitate in these relationships that we're talking about?
I think so. I think so. I mean, we all have degrees from fancy places, but you know what? We are real people and we're engaged in the learning environment ourselves. So, I'm not doing my job properly if I leave conference and feel like, oh, I said everything that I needed to say.
Mhm.
Um, I usually leave thinking, oh my gosh, I'd never thought of it this way. Like today, I'm teaching Ramayana in an intro Hinduism class, and a student made an observation. I've taught this idea for 25 years of my career, and I was gobsmacked today. I left conference sort of understanding a deeper level. And this is a 100 level class, and this is a science major who made this remarkable observation. So, yeah, yeah.
That's great. A few more questions. There's one really great one. Sorry, 1 second. So we're in our last 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask you all three more questions. And what I will say is for you, Kristen, and um, for you, Kelly, there's probably a question in the Q&A. If you can answer Kay's question in the Q&A type of response and share it with everyone, that would be great. Kristen, we have a question for you from River at the bottom, if you could respond to that. And I will ask you live about organic chemistry, Kelly. But we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because we get this question a lot. So just really brief, AI in the classroom, how is it integrated in the academic areas or in research? Has it influenced perceptions of authorship of writing or class projects? I know you all get this a lot, but real brief, succinct answer would be great from one or two of you. You want to start, Kevin?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I think we're having conversations about these evolving tools, and I think some people in my department have integrated AI into some of their assignments, and maybe they're having students use it to to brainstorm ideas or to organize ideas. I think we are a little bit wary of going further than that. And so we're kind of approaching it with an open mind, but also we want to really emphasize the value of thinking something through yourself and the process of writing, which is, we emphasize in so many of our courses the revision process and just how important it is to agonize over, how to structure a piece of writing. And so I still think that's really important.
Mhm.
I will say in my own research, I am studying the how AI is perceived and whether AI language as embodied by well not disembodied by AI has a similar impact on human users as not as human languages do. Yeah.
Very interesting. So this might be the last question, depending on your responses. What is the favorite part of your department? Or what is the favorite part
My
of one of your
awesome
colleagues' department?
t-shirt. Great religion department t-shirts. No, we have I think Kelly began the hour with kind of a sense of belonging, and the religion department, because we're relatively small, although we're super vital in terms of the humanities. We have 14 majors, so we have more than, major schools have for religion department. We have a really tight crew. We have symposium, weekly events that pull people together, meals together. We have a lounge in our hallway. So we become kind of a central location. It's both about place, but it's about kind of a sense of belonging and knowing that our doors are all next to each other. So there's always a faculty member around for conversation. That's what I love about my department, sense of belonging.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the joy of being here is that again, we all share a vision. We all really value our students. We value each other and work-life balance. There's no, you gotta power through and da da da, and that goes for our students and for ourselves. It's just about treating each other the way that we would want to be treated and making decisions in a way where everyone feels heard and safe being able to say things. And then just really celebrating each other's small victories, whether that's just growing a tomato in your, yard. Our Slack is like ridiculous. I'll just say that. Our Slack is lively and ridiculous.
Yeah, we have a really wonderful community as well that I really value. We have students who serve as Griffin guides. They are our ambassadors who organize community building events, game nights, and movie nights. And these are attended by students and faculty and staff. And so these are just ways to bring the community together and for students to see us as people, as Kristin was saying, and yeah, and we bring in outside speakers, and it's just really vibrant, and we really, I think, as Kelly was saying as well, we value each other, we respect each other, we recognize that people are coming to the department from all different walks of life, and it's a really it's a welcoming space.
That is really great. Thank you all. This has been really nice. And I have to tell everyone who's here, while you're trying to make your decision about what college you're going to spend time at for the next 4 years, Kristen has someone in her family who's making the same decision. Do you want to share, Kristen?
Yeah, well, first of all, my oldest kid graduated from Reed, transferred into Reed, but my high school senior went to Reed Admit Day yesterday and came home and said, "Yep, it's Reed." So yeah,
Yeah.
it comes close to home. I'm a parent too. I'm looking at sort of value. So any parents out there, reach out. It's an amazing place to send someone to just have a wonderful education, unlike any other.
Thanks, Kristen. And I want to thank you all for your wonderful questions. This has been, I think, a really good time for us to share with you a little bit about the relation. My hope is that you got a sense of the folks who teach here. I got a sense that these are people who care about students, care about their students and how they move through this place, and they want to make sure that they get everything they need to be successful. I mentioned this yesterday. Reed produces more PhDs per capita than all but three other schools in the United States. And it is across disciplines, the sciences, the humanities, the arts, physical sciences, life sciences, you name it. You don't have to pick and choose to have an exceptional educational experience, but we want you to know who is going to teach you in that class once you arrive here on campus. This tape is going to be edited and summarized and shared out, so you'll get to come back and view it again if you have any questions. And we've got a couple folks saying thanks a lot for your participation, Kevin, Kelly, and Kristen. Thank you. And Kevin's being really nice in answering this last question about neuroscience before we log off. So, do you want to say anything briefly about neuroscience, Kevin? Will that be easier?
Sure. Yeah, I can just say briefly, the neuroscience program is supported by biology and psychology. We also get some help from chemistry. There are some faculty who advise neuroscience thesis projects over in chemistry. Yeah, there are core faculty members in biology and psychology who teach neuroscience courses and advise neuroscience theses. The research is really it's really broad, spanning all different levels of study of the brain. In psychology, we have a behavioral neuroscientist who studies kind of the neural correlates of decision making. We have a cognitive neuroscientist who studies perception, attention, and consciousness. And so these are just some of the research areas that are covered by our neuroscience program.
Kelly, is that your reading?
Yes, unfortunately, he keeps applying, but he just can't get accepted. There's just sort of, but he still comes every day. And we
Yeah,
have lots of dogs on campus, everybody. This is Devo.
I've seen him around. I've told him enough is enough.
Yes, exactly. You can't be here if you're not in full.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. It's great to see you. If you have any questions, get in touch with your admission counselor. We have 4 more faculty office hours over the next month. So check out our schedule. We've got more programming virtually and in person than any other place. And it's all designed to help you make an informed decision about where you want to be. I hope to see you on campus soon. Have a good day. Bye, y'all. Thank you.